All right. Hello and welcome everybody to the Inspire for Youth Services webinar. My name is Beth Yates. I'm the children's consultant from the Indiana State Library's Professional Development Office, and I will be your host, presenter, and question moderator today. So please bear with me. A few announcements. First of all, to register for other webinars or other trainings available from the Professional Development Office, please see the Indiana State Library's events calendar, which can be found on our website at www.in.gov/library, and then it's under Services for Libraries. This session is 1 hour, so you're eligible to receive 1 LEU for this presentation. And if you're watching a recording of this webinar, instructions on how to obtain your LEU are in the video's description on YouTube. Or you can also find those instructions on the ISL's continuing education site under LEU policies. But in short, when you watch a recording, someone in administration at your library should create a certificate for you, as they're the ones who can verify that you watched. All right, let's get started. So again, welcome to Inspire for Youth Services. And again, in case you don't already know me, I'm Beth Yates. I work at the Indiana State Library in our Professional Development Office. And this is me back in my early days as a children's librarian at a public library. All right, so first of all, if you have used Inspire before or even regularly use it, please let us know in the chat what your favorite database is, or one that you seem like you feel like you use a lot. And as you're sharing that in the chat, I'm going to explain what Inspire is for anyone who is new to Inspire. Inspire is a collection of online academic databases and other information resources that can be accessed for free by Indiana residents. It's provided by the Indiana State Library via funds distributed through the Indiana General Assembly and the Institute of Museum and Library Services. I see no comments in the chat. So does anyone use Inspire ever? If so, do you have a database that you enjoy using? If not, that's okay. Hopefully you'll get one today. Oh, great. Teaching books for book club resources. Perfect. Inspire contains a wide variety of resources from full-text popular magazines to academic journal articles to newspapers and encyclopedias and ebooks. And then also it contains specialized databases that have created their own resources as well. Oh, Kate often helps college students and refers them to Eric. Okay. Oh, and Learning Express. Yeah, we'll actually talk about Learning Express and Teaching Books, book connections today. So speaking of today, the focus is going to be on K through 12 students. And so I will be focusing a lot on, when I was in a public library, what kind of common questions and assignments came across our desks that we had to help folks with. So that's kind of my inspiration when I selected the databases that I'm going to cover today. And then, as I said, hopefully we should have time for questions as we go, and I will do my best to answer them. Inspire is a very large behemoth of a resource. As I'm sure many of you are aware, there's a lot to it. So it's hard to be an expert in every single aspect of Inspire, but I will do my best. This is a basic infographic that I think is useful in seeing how all of the different elements of Inspire work together. Inspire is made up of over 80 databases, and some can be searched together in one comprehensive search. Most of them can be, and those are mostly the ones that are curated by EBSCO. Others are maintained by separate companies like Learning Express and Teaching Books, like you all mentioned. Rosetta Stone's another one. So those can't be searched under the general search. but they have their own ways to access that information. And then the Indiana State Library also manages a couple of the resources in Inspire as well, like Hoosier State Chronicles and Indiana Memory. And those also cannot be searched under kind of the general search bar. But everything for EBSCO can. Before we do the live demo, I also would like to point out that pink umbrella that says Access Indiana that is over the EBSCO databases. I want to take a minute to kind of explain what Access Indiana is and why it might be useful for you to be aware of. You might notice, particularly when, again, we're in those EBSCO databases, that there's a little icon in the corner oftentimes that says My EBSCO. Sometimes it'll even pop up a little box that will prompt you. It'll say sign in. This sign in is really primarily just for occasions when you want to work on a project over multiple days, or you'll be walking away from your computer, leaving Inspire, closing your browser window, but you want to be able to store whatever articles you've compiled and are working on in Inspire so you can come back to them later. In that case, you will need to log in, and I will walk through that in just a second. However, I also want to point out that it is really not necessary to log in most of the time. If you just want to look something up, if you're a casual user, you're helping a student, you can email or otherwise send the article to yourself. You can grab a link for it. And you don't need to store them within EBSCO, and you don't need to log in. So that it's pretty rare, especially if you're working with younger students, that you would ever need to log in for Explora or any of the other EBSCO databases. So I do want to preface it with that, but I also want to show you how to do it just in case it ever comes up that you need to. So really briefly, a few years ago, we switched over, the Indiana State Library switched over to using something called Access Indiana to handle the login process. Access Indiana is the state of Indiana's single sign-on portal. And so Indiana citizens can have one username and one password, and they can easily and securely log into multiple online services beyond just the state library, including certain portions of the BMV's website, the Secretary of State's register to vote page, professional licensing agencies, search for a license page, and more. And I think you'll probably continue over the next several years to see more state agencies utilize this Access Indiana login, because it means, it's a one-stop shop, really. Have one login, you can access all these things. So in order to create that account and log in, you'll need to go to www.in.gov/access. I have that website up in that box on the screen. And you can set up your account from there. I'll show you also where you can find this link to get to the sign, like the www.in.gov/access website, where you can also get to it from Inspire. So if you don't memorize or write down that link, you can find it later. But okay, so once you're here, you can click on sign up for your account there, that blue button at the bottom left. And it'll take you to this page, and it'll walk you through the process. And I will also add that Paula Newcomb of the Indiana State Library actually did a video about Access Indiana and the process of getting signed up and logged in. So I will include that link when I'm sending out resources and things to you later. It will also be posted on the archived webinar page, where this recording will also eventually be posted. So if you want to have a further, more detailed video explanation of how to do all those things, you can utilize that video. Okay. Now back to what we're doing today. These are some of the databases that I hope to cover today. Like I said, we should have time for all of these and time for questions. And if there are other databases you are hoping that we would cover today, we can certainly try to take a look at them later on if we have time. And I think we're ready for our live demo. So I'm going to exit out of my presentation. And you should be able to see my screen still with my Inspire pulled up. So Inspire is at www.inspire.in.gov. And I mentioned earlier that all Indiana residents have free access to this database. So how does it know when you are in Indiana? It does it using something called geolocation authentication, and it utilizes your IP address to figure that out. So in an ideal world, it would, see, oh, this is coming in from this IP address that's in Indiana. I will grant this person access. But of course, we all know technology is not infallible. And so if you ever have a problem, IP addresses change, things happen. Maybe you're using your cell phone and you're traveling around and it's pinging a cell tower that's not in Indiana or something. If you have an issue, you'll go to the homepage of Inspire and scroll all the way down to the bottom. And in this blue area is the resources that you'll need to get this figured out. So first of all, I want to point out Inspire at library.in.gov. This is the help desk. So if you ever have a problem you cannot figure out, and we're going to show you the FAQs here in just a second, but if those don't answer your question, you still need help, please feel free to email this email address, and that is what it's for. And they will get to you and help you out with whatever your issue is, whether that's adding your IP address or something else. So let's go to the FAQs. And you can see they're divided into individual, library, and promotional information. And the very second question is, what do I do if I'm having geo IP recognition issues on the main Inspire page? So you can see it is addressed here. It gives you a few suggestions of things you can try. And ultimately, if it doesn't work, it lists that email address for you to reach out and see if they can help you out via the help desk. Let's see, another question that we get is, how do I put a direct link from an Inspired database on my library's website or my school's website, or maybe if I'm a classroom teacher, my Canvas platform, if I'm using that with my students, and I want them to be able to go right to it, not have to go to Inspire first and then locate that database. I want them to be able to go right to that database. Well, there's a couple ways you can do that also. One is if you go down to I am a library using Inspire, one of the questions is, how do I add a database to my website directly? And it says, check out the listing of linking information. So you would click on this and it gives you the direct links to all of the databases in Inspire, some of them even in other languages, if that is relevant for you. The other way that you can do that, we're going to go back out. The other way you can do that is by going to any one of the links that leads to a database. You can do it here. You could do it in databases A to Z. And you're going to right click on that hyperlink, the name of the database, and you're going to copy link. And then you can open, you would be able to just put this into whatever you're using to build your website. But we're going to test it out. I'm going to show you, if you paste it into your browser, it does take you directly to that database. So that is one way to do it. All right. I think we're ready to go right into our first database, unless anybody has a question about any of the kind of technical stuff that I just covered. All right, I don't see any questions, but if you have them, please pop them in, and I will get to them as soon as I can. Okay, we're going to first start with teaching books and book connections. If you're not familiar with teaching books and book connections, they're literally databases that contain resources that will help you teach with books. They also contain things like discussion questions, author information, and interviews. I mean, I'll show you all the different types of resources that it contains. And they have quite a nice variety of books in here. Now, they are usually for like K through 12, right? So there's not really adult books in here too much, unless it's an adult book that a teenager might be likely to read. Otherwise, it mostly focuses on youth. And Book Connections and Teaching Books are the same company. We're going to open them both up today just so that I can show you. And if we flip between these two, they're pretty similar, but you can see that Teaching Books is designed for an interface in a school. So it has for students, for educators, and Book Connections, the interface is for public libraries. So it says for fun, for readers, for professionals. And so that's really the main difference. There are a few other minor things. And Book Connections and Teaching Books have done many other webinars for the state library where they focus on a lot of the other functions in more detail. Today, we're going to be kind of more high level overview of what the databases can do for you. So first off, I'm going to search for a book in both of them so you can see what they look like. We're going to just look for Wonder by R.J. Palacio. And if I flip between these two, you can see they are pretty much identical, just different colors. So you can use either one. If your library prefers one over the other, please feel free to do that. But again, Book Connections is technically designed more for public libraries. Teaching Books is more for schools. So what kind of information can you find if you're looking up a title? Well, you can, of course, find the author, which is hyperlinked to the author's page. So you can go right there, and there's lots of great info with them. Look at 27 interviews. It lists their other books. It gives their bios. There's a link to the name pronunciation guide, which is one of my favorite things about Teaching Books and Book Connections is they have author and illustrators actually saying recordings of them saying their own names so you know how to pronounce them. And as folks who work in libraries, I think you would agree, it's nice when you feel like you know the correct way to pronounce someone's name. And lots of other great stuff here. You can see what awards she's won. We're going to go back though. There's a brief description. I'm not going to click on read more, but if you clicked on that, it would give you the full kind of blurb for this book. And then as you come down below here, you can see there's 47 total resources that are going to be available as we scroll down. It's won 9 awards. It's on 70 different state book lists. You can view the text complexity. This used to just be the Lexile, but they've added some new options here. So that's kind of nice. I know it doesn't help with the reverse when you have a student come in and say, my Lexile is such and such, what books can I read? But it does help if you find them books that they're interested in, then you can tell them, oh, well, this has a Lexile of, whatever. And it's nice because it has them all here together. Discover Like Books is another really nice feature. It helps with reader's advisory. It's kind of if you've got someone you're trying to do read-alikes for, you can go to Discover Like Books for a book that they do like, that you know that they already have enjoyed. And there's different ways, of course, that you can find a book depending on what they liked about the book, what was the appeal of the book. So if they just want more books by the same author, you can certainly do that. They've got kind of general classifications, but then you've got the subjects here. So if they really liked that this book took place in New York, in Manhattan, you could see what other books take place there. If they really liked that it had middle school kids in it, and it was kind of a realistic portrayal of real feelings and emotions that middle schoolers might have, then you could click on the middle school list and maybe see if you can find some similar ones. So if I click on the middle school list, you can see it's got kind of similar middle school titles here with middle schoolers as the protagonists. And then, of course, it also gives you the awards and some other book lists that it is on, which could also lead you to similar books. Also here, we've got Meet the Author recording, an audio excerpt of the book, a book trailer, and then again, that name pronunciation guide. So I will click on it here. I'm not going to play it for you because I don't have the sound hooked up to play, but you can see here's the text of it. And so she actually gives a little explanation of the origin of her name and the meaning behind it. Other authors might just say, hi, my name is so-and-so, and that's it. But some of them do include these really nice stories too. And to get to the name pronunciation guide, if you just want to, do that, you can search for the author themselves, and then it will likely come up, or you can do author name, and then it will be over here on the right, author and illustrator pronunciation guide. And you can see over 3,500 names in here, pretty awesome. You can, of course, scroll, or you can go right to the first initial of the last name and then scroll. So going back to Wonder, I just want to point out a few more things. First of all, you've got the grade level here that it's recommended for, the genre. If you do show more details, it pops up again, the subject headings, the text complexity, some other relative information that might be helpful. And then you can continue to scroll down and you'll find various resources. So a lot of the resources that Teaching Books and Book Connections use are pulled from other sources with permission, of course. But they create their own resources too. So you'll find theirs at the top. If it's created by them, it will be outlined in red or blue if you're in Book Connections. So that's how you know it was created by Teaching Books. Or if it doesn't, let's go to Book Guides, Activities, and Lessons. So you can see if it's just white, then that's something they've pulled from somewhere else. So this one would have a classroom guide by Random House, so the publishers do them. The author themselves did this one. There are some statewide award lists. So Texas's Bluebonnet Award, they created some activities. With our own Young Hoosier Book Award books, that committee usually creates resources to go with the nominated books each year. So those would also be the sort of thing that Teaching Books will often put into their database so that they're easily accessible. And then you can see there's some other great resources here too, including, again, book trailers, vocabulary lists. Over on the left, I would like to point this out real quick. There are a couple of activities here, a word search and a jigsaw puzzle for the book cover. There is share this page, which is really important. So if you click on this arrow for share this page, it gives you several different options for that. And the coolest thing is it even tells you right up here at the top, but there is no sign in required. So you can send this to your students, to, someone can email it to themselves and it will go directly there. So they shouldn't have to worry about the geo authentication because it will give you direct access. So you can, of course, copy and paste this URL, or you could utilize one of the functions down here, including emailing it to yourself, putting it in your Google Classroom, sharing it on social media, I guess. Also down here is the citation information if you need that. And then I want to call your attention also to these QR code printables. You can print a bookmark, a flyer, or a label with a QR code that will take a student directly to this page if they scan it. So all nice functions, I think. I think that is the highlights for teaching books and book connections for now. Does anyone have any questions about those two databases before we move on to something else? All right. Well then, let's move on to our next one. I'm going to highlight Explora next, which you can see here is linked from the homepage at the bottom. I'm going to show you another way to get to it though. My personal favorite way to find databases is actually through databases A to Z. And the reason for this is, of course, first of all, they're all listed in alphabetical order. So if I know what database I'm looking for, I can just quickly come here and scroll through alphabetically until I find what I'm looking for. The other nice feature about it is that it actually provides descriptions of each database. So if you're not sure exactly what you want to use, you can read the descriptions, and that will get you one step closer to finding what you need, hopefully. So we're going to scroll down to the E's for Explora, and there are a few different versions of Explora. And today we're going to focus on there's elementary, high school, and middle school. And the difference for these three is that it pulls resources that are more developmentally and reading level wise appropriate for that age level, that grouping. So we're going to go to middle schools because it's kind of middle of the road. We're going to use that one today to demonstrate. And Explora will search several different databases. It's kind of, if you've got someone who's doing a research project or just needs some basic information, or maybe you can't find a book on a topic, and so you're trying to help them find an article or something, Explora is great for that. Explora is really great. So, of course, it has these kind of relevant current event sort of topics at the top. It's got some explore topic options. If you have a student who doesn't know what they really want, they can come here and look. But as always, there's this search bar at the top. And so we're going to search for a topic. Let's do Johnny Appleseed. It's kind of my go-to search for this sort of demonstration. And yeah, so you get your results. You've got 147 results. Now, I do want to go back here and compare for you. If I was just to search, this is the general search box for all of Inspire. And again, as I said at the very beginning, this will search all of the EBSCO databases, but it doesn't necessarily search teaching books or Learning Express library or any of those other kind of separate databases, but all of the EBSCO databases it will search. So let's do the same search, Johnny Appleseed, and see what we get. And once it loads, yeah, for this one, almost 19,000 results. That's compared to 147 when we're just searching for the middle school on Explora. And so it's much more manageable number of results, I think. So of course, as you scroll down, first of all, they often have this topic overview, kind of a highlighted general resource at the top. This one comes from the Salem Press Biographical Encyclopedia, and it is recent. It's from 2023. Now, you can filter your results if you want to make sure you have more recent results. If you go to all filters, first of all, you'll know online full text is selected. That one, you'll definitely want to make sure is always selected. and it is default selected. But that means that when they click on one of these results, it will give them the entire thing that they can read right away. So if you go to the filters, so yeah, you can see online full text is selected. Peer reviewed would be for more academic sort of journals. You can select a date range if that is helpful to you. If you want more recent or older resources, you can select which databases it's pulling from and also see which databases it's pulling from. So you can see quite a lot from Literary Reference Center Plus, some from Funk and Wagnall's New World Encyclopedia. So that's nice to know as well. If you only want encyclopedia articles, you can also do that through source types. So again, if you only want encyclopedia articles, you can select that. And then of course, there's subject and reading range and some other ways to filter as well. So going back to the results, so we've got this encyclopedia article, we've got this ebook, another encyclopedia, we've got a periodical. This one we can see came from Child Life. This one is a review. This one's another periodical from Boys Life. So you can see there are a wide variety of types of resources that these are pulled from. And of course, the great thing is these are all considered print resources. So if you have a student who says, no, I can't have an online resource, my teacher said it has to be a book or it has to be a print resource of some sort, we can reassure them that these actually are, even though they are technically on the internet, they originated as print resources, even if they were digital print. Okay, so let's go into a result real fast. And this is just saying there might be a URL that might take us to a non-EBSCO site. So we're gonna just exit out of that. And here we have the article in full text. You can see it's a good sized article. Up here in the top right corner is where you will find all of your helpful tools. So of course you can print this if you wish, you can share it, and it gives you a few different ways to share it, including if you have a Google Classroom account. If you want to email it to yourself, you can enter your email there, or you can grab a hyperlink and you can email that to yourself separately if that works better. So this is why I'm saying you don't need to be signed in to retain and hold on to some of the resources that you find. You can always send them to yourself and do it that way instead. This little add to project, this is where you would need to sign in, because add to project is like the long term. I want to maintain this. I want to be able to close my browser window, leave Inspire, come back another day and still have it in there. That's when you would need to sign into your EBSCO account, which is where you're going to be using that Access Indiana login that I shared the information about earlier. If you need if the child needs a citation, you can go here and it gives you different options, including, of course, MLA, probably the most common one for high school kids. Save item will save it for now, but once I close the browser window, it will go away. So that's the difference between save item and add to project. And then finally, these two tools, if you have someone who needs to hear the article read to them, then they can go here to the little headphones and have it read. And there's some options there. It will highlight the text as it is read. And translate. You can translate this article into quite a few different languages. It does take a few minutes. I'm not going to demo it because it takes a few minutes for it to process. But it is an option that's pretty nice to have. And then, of course, you can always download it to your computer too. So this is less useful if they're using a library computer, although you could then save it to a flash drive or something, or send it to your email. All right, any questions about any of these functions? Oh, let's see. Okay, says, has there been a change in how lists are created? Kate, was that a question from teaching books and book connections, or let me know which thing you're referring to. I'm sorry if I missed your question earlier. I wanted to show you really quickly also what an ebook looks like in here. Now, this is not going to be the same kind of for fun fiction books that that you would get through Overdrive, of course, for instance. But for research purposes, it is a viable option. And you can, without logging in, you can access the book as a PDF and read it on your computer. So this is what this looks like. And you can see it is literally the book that has been scanned full color. I'm gonna teach her again. Let's see. So I'm without knowing what lists you're referring to. I'm not sure. Okay. So if you can clarify it all, okay. Or we can talk later. Shoot me an email. There's my email address, and I can try and help you figure it out. Okay. Any other questions about Explora? Anybody ever use Explora? I also wanted to show you Read It. So we'll go back to databases A to Z. And Read It is a good resource if you've got an English language learner in your library or in your school who needs assistance with research on a reading level that is a little bit lower lexile level, maybe because the English is their second language. So let me just, it's hard to multitask and talk and also look for alphabetical things. Okay, so here's Read It. So again, it gives you some sample articles. We'll just do the same search and look for Johnny Appleseed again. And you can see it comes back with only 2 results for this one. Both of them from kids magazines, because the lexile on these will be a little lower than some of the other articles. And so it'll be a little easier for them to read. Let's see. Oh, one of the other ones I really like, I think is super helpful. If you've got any students who maybe have an assignment where they have to make an argument for or against something, or if you perhaps have a debate student who is looking for information about the stance that they might have to take for a debate, there's Points of View Reference Center. So if you click on that, it'll take you into the database. Now, this one is kind of the old school EBSCO format, so it looks a little different, but it still has most of the same functions. You can see instead of, I think before it said project, it's called folder. And it will either, you can add something to your folder and it will stay there temporarily if you don't log in, or it will stay there longer term if you do sign in. So you can see here that there are some suggested kind of current event sort of points of view topics. It might also just be good if like a civics class or something is doing a current event sort of assignment and they have to bring in current events and then they're trying to understand them a little bit more. This gives kind of all sides of various issues. There's also browse by category, and you can see they have a lot of the most common ones here. And let's look at banning books. I'm going to click on banning books because that one is certainly relevant to us. And you can see that as you scroll down, first of all, it gives you the overview here on this, the main results page. And over on the right, though, it gives you the point and the counterpoint. And if you click on one of these, maybe it will open. Oh, it's opening my other window. That's why. I'll drive. That's not it. There we go. So here we've got the point. So again, it gives you kind of all of the main points for that particular viewpoint. There we go. All right. And then also kind of a guide to critical analysis for that topic as well. And then over on the right-hand side, you've got all of your shortcut sharing options, citation options that you had before. They just look a little different. The next one that I wanted to point out is Biography Reference Center. I'm going to go back up to the B's. And this is nice. I know biography assignments are super common. We used to get a famous Hoosiers assignment every year from one of our schools. And some of the Hoosiers that were on the list didn't have books published about them, but we could go to a biography database like Biography Reference Center and usually find at least one article for that student, if not more. So let's look up a famous Hoosier. Let's look up Madam C.J. Walker. And we're going to hit search. And the first results page will be, it might just be the person you're searching for, or it might list a few people with similar names. So if somebody has a very common name, then you might see a few different results, but there's only one Madam C.J. Walker. So we're going to click on her, and then that will open up any articles. Now, here we can see she's also known as Sarah Breedlove. That was her actual name, because CJ Walker, I believe, is like a stage name, sort of. Excuse me. So you get a little bit of information here, and then an article. And this one is from Notable American Women, a Biographical Dictionary. And as you scroll down, you've got your full text article with very tiny print. But you can always make that larger in your browser. Again, same options up here. Any questions about those databases before we move on? All right, let's go to Learning Express Library real fast. Actually, I'm going to go there from the home page. It is one that is linked here. EBSCO Learning Express Library. And this is kind of a test prep database. It's really great. It's got different sorts of practice tests and study guides, and generally can just help people prepare for various types of tests. So one of the big ones you might find a use for is the college admissions test prep, because it's got the ACT, SAT, some AP exams. And so you can click on one of these and it'll tell you what's available. So it's got the practice tests, it's got the tutorials, test prep book. And so if I wanted to take this practice test, I would come in here and give me the options, and it does say sign in or register to begin. Now, this is another one that is independent from EBSCO. So you would create your own login, your own sign in for Learning Express Library specifically, if you wanted to do this. And the reason why you have to sign in or register in order to use any of these things is because generally they're things you're probably going to want to start and then come back to. And so it will save your progress if you do that. So that is why you need to do that. And I'm going to go back here and just point out there's also all kinds of career prep tests. So if you've got kids who maybe want to go and become an electrician or a plumber, there's some guides and exam and test prep books here. There's also for high school students, various, if they need skill improvement in something, they have some tests and study guides there. There's English as a second language study guides, adult core skills. I mean, just lots of really helpful test prep sort of resources in Learning Express Library. I also want to highlight just a couple more things real quick. These are Indiana State Library databases. We've got Hoosier State Chronicles and Indiana Memory. Hoosier State Chronicles is a collection of historic Indiana newspapers. If you've got a teacher who's doing a primary source sort of assignment, this could be a really interesting resource for them to check out. You can search, you can go for a list of titles of different newspapers. You could also click on a county and see if they have any newspapers. If they're white, they do, and if they're this kind of off-white color, then they don't. And then you can browse and just see all the historical newspapers that have been scanned in, and kind of, it's just interesting to read. And you can search for keywords too. So if someone's maybe doing an assignment where they're trying to find out how their local newspaper reported on a historical event, like 100 years ago or something, they could potentially try to do that. It's of course not a complete database, and they are adding newspapers all the time though. And then finally, I also wanted to share Indiana Memory, the other Indiana State Library database. And this is, instead of newspapers, this is more photographs and other pieces that can be scanned. It's got some teacher resources that are really nice, talking about like using primary sources and some best practices. So I want to call your attention to that. And then the other cool thing is, again, you can find different collections based on county. So for instance, I grew up in Park County, and it looks like both the Community Foundation and the public library have collections here. So I could go to the Park County Public Library's collection and see what they have added to this. You can see it contains extensive genealogy resources and photographs. So you can browse the collection. You can try searching for keywords. You can look at specific, who submitted these photos, and look by subject. All right, so that is really some of the main ones that I wanted to cover today. And I think we still have just a couple of minutes. So if anyone else has any questions or wants me to go over something again, or just generally has any questions, we've got time for that. I'm going to go ahead in the meantime and add the LEU request form into the chat box since we're nearing the end of the hour. So again, if you missed the beginning of this training, if you need an LEU certificate for attending today, please go to that link that I just put into the chat and fill that out, and I will make sure you get your LEU certificate. Lisa wants to know, does the state library collect statistics for how many times a particular database is used in a month's annual time period? Lisa, yeah, I think that they do. I am not privy to that information. But yeah, I would assume that they get some sort of reports from, probably one from EBSCO and then maybe individual ones. I know Teaching Books and Book Connections does do a report. Yeah. Anybody else? Sure. Does anybody get any questions that they don't feel like the databases I covered would answer, but they were hoping I would talk about a database? Because maybe we could, maybe I can recommend one. All right. Well, I'll stay on for a couple more minutes. I'm going to stop the recording. So anyone watching the recording, thank you. Stop that now.